Tonight on Newsnight Scotland, we hear from the management who've sacked the staff of the Herald and Times Group. Is this just a little industrial difficulty, or are we witnessing a major realignment of the newspaper industry? And MSPs wonder what's to be done about the state of broadcasting in Scotland. Good evening. Well, as the impact of the mass sackings at the Herald Group was sinking in, Parliament was debating other problems in the media, problems at STV, and a new round of job cuts at the BBC. We'll have more on that later in the programme. But first, more on the Herald Group's decision to make all its staff redundant, with a view to rehiring just some of them. Scottish newspaper journalists are by reputation fairly hard-bitten and cynical, but there was some genuine shock when 235 staff at the Herald Group were issued with redundancy notices until they'll have to reapply competitively for some version of their old jobs, with wages and conditions yet to be detailed. The issue reached Parliament this morning.
This is a difficult time for the Scottish media, for the Scottish press. There's a range of possible redundancies across a number of outlets. But nonetheless, it would be far better to approach these in a manner of negotiation between management and unions. There is another aspect which I think the owners of the Herald newspaper might wish to reflect upon. And that is, as if this was happening in another employer in Scotland, if an approach was being taken to make an entire workforce redundant and then to ask people to reapply for their jobs, what would we imagine that the editorial stance of the Herald newspaper in its traditions would have been? And
the view from the UK government was also sympathetic. The Chancellor's wife and his chief press secretary are former Herald journalists.
Well, look, anyone would be concerned about any job losses. I'm not familiar enough with the detail of what exactly the management have done. You know, I think what I would say to the management is you've got to treat people reasonably. You've got to remember that a lot of people who worked for that firm for many, many years, sometimes above and beyond the call of duty, and even in difficult times, you've got to treat people reasonably and treat them as fellow human beings.
Whatever happens at a political level, the journalist trade union is girding up for a fight if necessary.
I'm dealing with every media organisation in Scotland. There's change taking place everywhere. You know, new technology coming in, people having to make savings for different reasons. NewsQuest are not in that position. Right? This is a very rich American company who, in Scotland alone last year, made £26.3 million profits, record profits for that company.
When the redundancy notices were issued at the Herald and Times Group, 6 senior people escaped. One of them was the group managing editor Thomson. Well, earlier this evening he came into the studio and I asked him how fortunate he felt to be one of the 6.
I'm feeling very fortunate, but I've been involved in the planning for this restructuring at the Herald and Times Group. A restructuring that's designed to actually make the group more competitive and modernised and in line with modern media practice.
Right, but the way you've gone about it has been an unmitigated PR disaster.
Well, I'm not sure it has.
What, when you've had the First Minister saying you're endangering the reputation of the titles?
No, I don't think we have.
We had this Deputy Secretary of State for Scotland on this programme last night saying you could have gone about differently. And even the Chancellor of the Exchequer said he's concerned about the way you're going about this.
Well, these are extraordinary times and they need extraordinary action. So what we've done is to tell 230 of our editorial staff that their jobs are at risk of redundancy, but we'll be rehiring by far the majority of these people into new and rather exciting roles. I mean, our aim is to secure the future of this group in Scotland and give the readers in Scotland some rather exciting, compelling print and digital content.
Can I just be clear about this? Because no one seems to be very clear about this. Are you actually making these people redundant, or are you saying you might make them redundant?
No. We've told them they're at risk of redundancy, but they're welcome to reapply for jobs in the new structure, substantially different jobs, multimedia cross titles.
But if you're not making people redundant or firing them, how can they reapply for the jobs that you haven't fired them from?
Well, those who have not reapplied will be eligible for redundancy, but those who apply and are accepted will get jobs in the new structure. So we think it's rather exciting, actually, that people who really want to be part of the new team under the new editor-in-chief, Donald Martin, a particularly talented journalist, can reapply and can join that team. There's going to be multimedia, it's going to be cross-title, it's going to be a very exciting place to be.
But, I mean, have you taken legal advice on this? Because this on the face of it, looks pretty dodgy under employment law. You can't just say, look, we might sack all of you or make you all redundant, but we'll cherry pick the people we'll have back.
We have taken legal advice, and we're not cherry picking. We're selecting those who wish to return and have the skills to return to the new structure. So again, I think it's a very positive
hang on, you are
message.
cherry picking. You've just said you are, because if you're going to select the people who can return, that's cherry picking. You're going to decide the people you don't want back, and that's that.
We're going to take, based on merit and based on ability and skills, the people who would fit in the new structure, and those who want
Which
to
is
come
just
back.
another word for saying, it's just a complicated way of saying you're going to cherry pick the people you want.
I don't think that's right. I think it's very much selecting ability and people who will bring better content to the people of Scotland.
And you've been advised by your lawyers
We
that
have
it
been-
is legal to do that.
We have been advised by our lawyers that it's legal. We're moving very quickly. We realise it's a period of uncertainty for our staff. We're moving with great dispatch at the moment to rehire the people who will fit into the new structure, to allay uncertainty as quickly as we can.
Why did you not do what most other organisations would do in this situation, which is go around and ask for a round of voluntary redundancies, and then if you couldn't get the numbers you required, simply make some people redundant?
We've done that in the past, but this tends to lead to imbalance within the organisation. We felt, as I say, that it is an extraordinary time, and we wanted to take fairly radical action to put in place a highly competitive structure. As you know, the industry is facing declining advertising revenue, erosion of circulation, and therefore we must put in place efficiencies to make us streamlined and modernised.
Are you losing money?
No, we're not losing money. It would be irresponsible to lose money, but the profits of last year are last year. This year is difficult. Next year will be extremely tough.
Now, are you saying if you didn't do this, you would be losing money?
It's difficult to forecast next year. The future looks extremely uncertain. It's possible that we might. But one obviously wants to preserve a level of profits for reinvestment. And this company has invested heavily in Scotland. We've just invested £1 million in a new editorial production system so that we can produce better papers and better digital content.
Would you like to buy the Scotsman?
Would you like to buy the Scotsman? We're focusing on our internal reorganisation.
Well, are you though?
So
Because there's a lot of people say there's a certain logic to merging the papers together. It would get rid of a lot of their problems, and they have many, as you know, and it would also help deal with the kind of problems you've just outlined to me that you have.
Well, we're focusing on our operations at the moment to make them competitive and slick, and
Right.
to better serve the people of Scotland.
So what's your reply to the First Minister when he says you're in danger of in effect, trashing the reputation of your own titles? I mean, if this happened at any other company, you'd be thundering away in your editorial columns about how outrageous it was, and it was breaking the cooperative spirit between unions and employers and heaven knows what else.
We may well, but that's not the case in
What
this
you
company.
would, you know, you would. What you're admitting you would actually be condemning it.
We've taken action that we think is sensible and efficient and will benefit the people of Scotland.
All right, we'll have to leave it there.
Thank you very
Tom Thomson,
much.
thanks very much.
Thank you.